Hello, I'm Al Simmons, and this is I Love to Read Month in Manitoba, and probably around the world people are reading books this month too. They don't care what month it is, whether it's I Love to Read Month or not, they'll read books. But I should tell you that when I was quite young, I had a terrible time reading. I tried and tried and tried, and I just could not read well. And then when it came to reading aloud, I was out of my mind, terrified at the thought of reading aloud. And it took me a long time to actually, the trick was finding a book that interested me. That was the main key. I would read books and they didn't interest me. So I just didn't find the joy in them as much. But then I found a biography of Harry Houdini, who was a magician about 100 years ago. And that book just captivated me. I just read it cover to cover without even thinking that I was reading something. It just sort of took me away. And from that time forward, I just found that I loved biographies and history and any true stories. I liked I didn't like fantasy or made-up stories. You know, and a lot of people do. There's Twilight series and there's Harry Potter and stuff like that that are just made up. They're not true. They're made up stories. I find true stories more appealing to me. So it's just everybody's different. So if you find a type of book, and you can go to a librarian, they'll help you find the kind of book that you like to read. Maybe you like to read about sports or something, but try a bunch of different books and all of a sudden you'll find, wow, I love reading. And then the other thing about my being terrified of reading aloud, I learned how to read aloud by reading board books to my kids as they were growing up. I read the simplest little kiddies book aloud to my kids, and I read all the way from that all the way through all the Harry Potter's books aloud to my kids. And just by doing that, I learned how to read aloud and not be terrified of it anymore. So don't give up. If you have trouble reading, just find a book that you love. Find a category or a type of book you love. Maybe there's lots of pictures in it. It doesn't matter. And then if you really have trouble reading, go back to kindergarten books. They're fun to read. There's a lot of good ones in there too. Should I read you a little kindergarten book? Let me do that. Here's a book. It's called a board book because the pages are almost like boards. They're stiff so that young babies can chew on them. Don't eat books, okay? I don't recommend that. But you know, it's hard to destroy a book like this. This is by Sandra Boynton, who writes great little stories for board books like this for young kids. And they're fun to read. So if you have trouble reading, go back all the way back to kindergarten board books and start there, and then you'll advance quickly through to your age group or whatever. That's what I did, and it worked for me. It's called 15 Animals by Sandra Boynton. I really like animals. I like them a lot. 15 animals is what I've got. I've got 15 animals. They're friendly and tame, and I've given each one a special name. I've got a cat named Bob, and a dog named Bob, and 2 fish called Bob and Bob. There's Bob my hamster, and Bob my horse, and my piglet known as Bob, of course. There's my rabbit Bob, and his bunny wife Bob, and their kids, Bob, Bob, and Bob. There's Bob the mouse, and Bob the bird, and my turtle, Simon James Alexander Ragsdale III. She gave her turtle the longest name. I don't know why. Anyway, go to board books. They're fun and easy to read, and you can learn to read. All right. Anyway, I Love to Read Month. I got some more books to read to you. And pretty well every one of them, they're poems, because I love poems. Hello, I'm Al Simmons, and I love to read. This is I Love to Read month in Manitoba, and I've got some books I'd like to read to you. This first one I'm going to read is called Edward the Emu, and it's written by Sheena Knowles, illustrated by Rod Clement. And let's find out how this goes. Here we go. There's Edward the Emu, great pictures drawn on there by Rod Clement that perfectly match the story. Edward the Emu. There's Edward again. Yes. Edward the Emu was sick of the zoo. There was nowhere to go. There was nothing to do. And compared to the seals that lived right next door, well, being an emu was frankly a bore. Oh, look at how bored he is. He had nothing to do with being an emu. Oh, boy. So that night when the zookeeper went home to bed, Edward jumped from his pen and he laughed as he said, "The seals are the best, anybody can tell, so tomorrow I'll just be a seal as well." Look at Emu. Edward is planning on becoming a seal. Wonder how that's going to go. So the next morning at 9, when they opened the zoo, the seals were all swimming. And Edward was too. He dived in the water and basked in the sun, and he balanced a ball on his beak just for fun. Do you remember him balancing a ball on his beak? Let's go back and look at that just so we see. There he is. That's the beginning. Remember that? Okay. Look at Edward being so pleased with himself. I am a seal now. Well, Edward was really enjoying the day till he overheard someone behind the fence say, "The seals are amusing." It's true, but the lion's the best thing to see in the zoo. That's what he says. The lion's the best thing to see in the zoo. Look at Edward saying, "What? Not the seals, the lion? Oh no. Yes, the lions." Oh boy. So that night when the zookeeper went home to bed, Edward jumped from the pool and he smiled as he said, "The lion's the best. Anybody can tell, so tomorrow I'll just be a lion as well." The next morning at 9, when they opened the zoo, the lions were roaring. Roar. And Edward was too. Roar. He snarled at the ladies and growled at the men. Life certainly was grand for a lion in his den. Well, Edward was having a wonderful day till a man in the crowd had the gumption to say, "The lion's the beast I shall always detest. The snakes are the things that I like to see best." The snakes? Oh. Look at he's a lion, and what's he doing? He's just lying around. So that night, when the zookeeper went home to bed, look at the poor lion is going to be glad to get rid of him. So that night when the zookeeper went home to bed, Edward crept from the cage and he grinned as he said, "If the snakes are the best things, and that's what they say, then tomorrow I'll just be a snake for the day." The next morning at 9, when they opened the zoo, the snakes were all hissing. And Edward was too. He slipped round the rocks. It was magic to see. Then he curled himself casually up round a tree. Well, Edward was just warming up for the day when he overheard one of the visitors say, oh, what's it going to be this time? He overheard one of the visitors say, the snakes are impressive. I know that it's true. But the emus, by far the best thing in the zoo. What? The emu is the best? Wait a minute. Hold on here. Hang on a second. The emu, gasped Edward. My goodness, that's me. I'm the thing that gentleman most likes to see. Not the seals, the lions, the snakes, and the rest. It's Edward the emu he likes to see best. Well, that's going to be an easy transformation, I think. So that night, when the zookeeper went home to bed, Edward slipped from the cage and he laughed as he said, if the emu's the best, then that's easy then. Tomorrow, I'm Edward the emu again. Look at, if I put my head here, I'm the emu. Tomorrow I meet Edward the emu again. Edward ran to the place where he used to reside, but oh, what a shock when he clambered inside. He found him suddenly come face to face with the emu they brought in to take Edward's place. They brought an emu in to take Edward's place. Oh, they're both shocked. Oh. Oh, the plot thickens. This is going to be, here we go. Oh, what's going to happen? The emus considered each other a while. Then the new emu said with a shy little smile, hello, I'm Edwina. It's nice meeting you. You're the best thing I've seen since I came to the zoo. Look at how happy they are. And that's the end. It's sort of a love story. Now that book rhymed. It was like a poem and a book with stories and everything. I like books that rhyme, and I also like love stories. So I'll do another one for you. Here's a book of poems called Twosomes. Love poems from the animal kingdom. Poems by Marilyn Singer. Pictures by Lee Wildish. I'll just read you a couple from here. They're all pretty cute, small, short little poems. Porcupines. Hugging you takes some practice. So I'll start out with a cactus. Ouchie. You know how porcupines hug? Very carefully. Oh, yes. And here's one called chameleons. They're the kind of lizard that they can change their color to match their surroundings so they can hide somewhere. They can hide on a leaf. They can turn themselves green to hide on a leaf, or they can land on, say, the black dirt, and they can turn themselves brown and black so they look like dirt. They could land on a polka dot dress and turn themselves polka dots, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, here it's called Chameleons. You and I could be a team if we could agree on a color scheme. Here's a book of poems called Poem Stew. Poems selected by William Cole. And I've selected a couple of them as well. Pictures by Karen Ann Winehouse. Now, this poem is titled, If Walt Whitman Had Written Humpty Dumpty. Walt Whitman was a poet who was writing poems around 150 years ago. So this is Humpty Dumpty as if it was written by Walt Whitman all those years ago. You know the story of Humpty Dumpty? Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. Anyway, this is written by Frank Jacobs, as if Walt Whitman wrote it. Oh Humpty, oh Dumpty, you've had a fearful spill. You've tumbled from the stony height. You're lying cold and still. Your shell is cracked. Your yolk runs out. Your breath is faint and wheezy. You landed as a scrambled egg instead of over easy. The king has sent his steeds and men to mend you if they can. I pray that they did not forget to bring a frying pan. Poor Humpty Dumpty. And here's all the king's horses and all the king's men bringing a frying pan to save Humpty Dumpty. Better they brought a stretcher and an ambulance perhaps, but that's it. Here, I'll do one more. This is by William Cole, and I guess this is written as if William Cole wrote it. I've chosen it. It's such a shock, I almost screech when I find a worm inside my peach. But then, what really makes me blue? To find a worm who's been bit in two. There's the poem. Screech, there's a worm in my peach. All right. Here's some more poems. This is called Roald Dahl. You probably know him from James and the Giant Peach or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and all of that. This is called Revolting Rhymes. And these rhymes are so revolting that I'm surprised that this reading of these poems got past the censors in your school, because they're so revolting that I shouldn't probably be reading these poems to you. Okay, I've even had to change the ending a little bit because, okay, well, we'll find out. And this is the only poem that is suitable in the entire book that, for me to read, and only even with a change at the end. So if you find this in the library, you're lucky, because I'm sure it's been banned in all schools around. Roald Dahl, and it's called Revolting Rhymes. Okay, and there's not many pictures in here, so I'll just read it to you. Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Do you know the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears? Yes, Goldilocks, la 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 la, goes through the forest and finds a house and goes in and eats the bear's porridge and all of that stuff. Yeah, okay, enough. Okay, you got the idea. This famous wicked little tale should never have been put on sale. It is a mystery to me why loving parents cannot see that this is actually a book about a brazen little crook. Had I the chance, I wouldn't fail to clap young Goldilocks in jail. Now just imagine how you'd feel if you had cooked a lovely meal, delicious porridge, steaming hot, fresh coffee in a coffee pot, with maybe toast and marmalade, the table beautifully laid. One place for you and one for Dad, another for your little lad. Then Dad cries, golly gosh, gee whiz, oh cripes, how hot this porridge is. Let's take a walk along the street until it's cool enough to eat. He adds, an early morning stroll is good for people on the whole. It makes your appetite improve. It also helps your bowels move. No sooner are you down the road than Goldilocks, that little toad, that nosy, thieving little louse, comes sneaking in your empty house. She looks around, she quickly notes 3 bowls brim full of porridge oats. And while still standing on her feet, she grabs a spoon and starts to eat. I say again, how would you feel if you had made this lovely meal and some delinquent little tot broke in and gobbled up the lot. But wait, that's not the worst of it. Now comes the most distressing bit. Deciding she would like a rest, she says, let's see which bed is best. Upstairs she goes and tries all three. Here comes the next catastrophe. Most educated people choose to rid themselves of socks and shoes before they clamber into bed, but Goldie didn't give a shred. Her filthy shoes were thick with grime, and mud and mush and slush and slime. Worse still, upon the heel of one was something that a dog had done. I say once more, what would you think if all this horrid dirt and stink was smeared upon your eiderdown by this revolting little clown? The famous story has no clues to show the girl removed her shoes. Oh, what a tale of crime on crime. Let's check it for a second time. Crime 1, the prosecution's case. She breaks and enters someone's place. Crime 2, the prosecutor notes, she steals a bowl of porridge oats. Crime 3, she smears each spotless sheet with filthy messes from her feet. A judge would say without a blink, 10 years hard labor in the clink. But in the book, as you will see, the little beast gets off scot-free, while tiny children near and far shout, goody good, hooray, hurrah. Poor darling Goldilocks, they say. Thank goodness that she got away. Myself, I think I'd rather send young Goldie to a sticky end. Oh, Daddy, cried the baby bear, my porridge is gone. It isn't fair. Then go upstairs, the big bear said. Your porridge is upon the bed. But as it's inside, Mademoiselle, you'll have to eat her up as well. What a horrible ending to that story. You know what? I changed the ending. I wrote another ending for Roald Dahl's Revolting Rhymes, Goldilocks. But Baby Bear said, no, no, no. He ran and got his Nintendo. Forget about the oatmeal chef. Goldie and Bear are BFF. A happy ending, oh, but yes, they spend their days playing Bear's DS. I'm not exactly sure what all that means, but I think it's all computer games, isn't it? Let's hope it is. Anyway, that was my idea of the ending of the story. Roald Dahl, Revolting Rhymes. You'd be well advised to never read this book because it's too revolting. Okay, everybody. Have fun reading. Bye-bye.